Hello everyone, welcome to the World According to Jason. Today it is time for part 3 of the Breakfast Konbini series. That's right folks, today we're going to Family Mart. So, went to Family Mart, had a perusing around. It was a kind of a smaller one nearby my hotel. And when I went to the sandwich section, they didn't have anything like super unique that stood out. So I grabbed the old trusty standby egg salad sandwich. They only had one left. Woo! Glad I got there when I did. Then I also picked up like a Hamburg and cheese steak sushi is what they called it. So it was like a little Hamburg steak with some sauce and cheese over rice. Then they had a bunch of interesting puddings. And since it's, approaching winter, I wanted to pick up the like fall winter themed pumpkin pudding, so that should be good. And I was looking through like kind of the coffees. They had a Mount Rainier. I don't know if that's like a really big brand or not, but they had a cookies and cream flavored latte, which sounded really good. And then in their hot section, they actually had hash browns. So I picked up hash browns. And make sure if you get like a pudding or anything, you ask for a spoon because they don't just give it to you by default. And I guess you're supposed to ask for ketchup because I did not get any ketchup. So we're gonna try this hash brown. It's like the Family Tiki where you can rip it. The hash brown looks pretty good. It looks like nice and golden brown and crispy and crunchy. So let's see what I put. Oh. No. You can tell this wasn't fried very recently. It's kind of got that like stale crunch to it. Maybe if this had ketchup, it would be a lot better. The flavor is there, like it's really tasty. It's just the texture that I'm having a problem with. Yeah, the flavor was there. Like I said, just a texture thing, so kind of a disappointing first start. So then today, as a little bonus, I wanted to do like a little bit of a Q&A session. There was a great suggestion from DonManCC. I hope I pronounced the YouTube name correctly, over on YouTube that asked, said wanted to learn a little bit more about my history, like why I travel to Asia so much, and how am I able to travel so frequently. So I figured I'd answer some questions as we go through this video. So the first question I'm going to answer is why have I been to China and Japan so much? And it's a long-winded answer, but I'll try to summarize it. Is growing up, I always had a very keen fascination with China and Japan. I had a really good friend that lived across the street from me when I was very young, who was half Japanese. His mom was Japanese, his dad was African American, and then I had another friend who lived a little bit further down the street who was Chinese. And so whenever I visit their houses, I'd always see the art hanging on the wall. Sometimes the parents would be speaking in either Japanese or Chinese, and I just was like fascinated by it. I thought it was a very beautiful language. And then the other part of this is I've always been very interested in history, and especially China. China has thousands of years of history, and Japan has as well. And so I was always very interested in the history and the culture of both countries. So when I was in college, I actually majored in Chinese and minored in business. And so I got a chance to spend a year in China when I was in university. And then shortly after graduation, I was hired by Whirlpool, and they put me in Kansas City for a little bit, but then an opportunity came to go to China and live in Shanghai for 2 years. So after I came back, my career was such that I would come back to China almost every year until I worked for a company called Group Seb as a product manager. And because most of the products I was working on were manufactured in China, I was coming to China, like Hong Kong and Shenzhen specifically. I was coming like 4 or 5 times a year. And so it was so awesome. I loved it. And it was really cool to be able to visit a country that I love so much so frequently. And then Japan has always been on my bucket list for travel. So I made an effort with the Titanium Colon. We went to Japan for the first time in 2019. We loved it so much that we went again for New Year's that year, and then of course the world shut down for a long time. But that's why I've been to China and Japan so many times, is because I have a long, deep-rooted love and respect for both countries and for the history and the culture within. All right, so let's move on to the next one. Let's do the egg salad sandwich next. And the weather today, it's kind of a bummer. It looks like it's going to be another rainy day. When I went out to grab this, it started drizzling a little bit, which is a bummer because it makes it difficult to kind of get around the city. Hard to get out. This sandwich does not want to come. There we go. It definitely has a very strong eggy smell, but you can see they are very generous with the filling. Some nice egg chunks in there. The bread is nice and pillowy soft, just like the 7-Eleven one. So let's see how this compares. Yeah, that is really good. This is so much better than I was expecting. The egg is like perfectly cooked. You get a lot of egg in there. And then you have the mayo, which adds a nice creaminess to it. The bread is just so soft. It's almost like a cloud, just like the 7-Eleven one is. And I haven't had a 7-Eleven breakfast just because there's not one super close to the hotel. I haven't had one in probably a week, so I don't know. I think tomorrow what I wanted to do was do a comparison between the 3 convenience stores for the egg salad sandwich and the tuna mayo onigiri and crown a winner, but man, this is really good. This might be my favorite. This is solid. That was a phenomenal sandwich. Highly recommended. All right, so the next question I'm gonna answer is, do I travel for work? And the answer is right now, no. Mostly no. The job I have right now doesn't require me to travel so much, but 2 companies previous to where I'm at now, I did travel a lot. So I was, like I said, it was a French company, so I was either in France or in Hong Kong. I probably traveled 8 to 10 times a year between the 2 countries. Because of that, I was able to amass a nice collection of frequent flyer points. And those frequent flyer points is what I've used to book this trip to Japan, my last trip to Japan, and then I used some miles to upgrade to business class from my first trip to Japan. So that's how I've been able to travel so much, is because luckily I was able to get a lot of frequent flyer miles with that previous company. Okay, I think it's time we take a drink break. So as I had mentioned, they had this cookies and cream espresso and milk drink. And it looks like it might be a limited time thing because there's like a dog with like a Santa's hat on it, and it just kind of looks like there's a snowman. So it looks like it's themed for the winter holidays. Let's give it a shot. All right, going in. Ooh, that is so delicious. The cookies and cream is like the forefront of this drink. I don't really taste much coffee at all. It's mostly the cookies and cream kind of flavor. But wow. Ooh, that's delicious. And I'm guessing this is a US brand because it says the Mountains of Seattle on the packaging, so I'm assuming that's what it is, but that is a delicious beverage. And if they still have that flavor when you come here, I definitely recommend to get it. The next question that I got was, how do I travel so often? And I mean, I definitely think I travel more than the average person, but I wouldn't say that it's a lot. It's just usually when I do plan a trip somewhere, we film a lot of videos. And because I have a full-time job, I'm not able to like edit them all at the same time. It takes a long time. I usually am only able to release 1 video a week. I know there's certain times where if the video is like a lot shorter, I'll typically be able to get 2 videos in a week. So it's every once in a while I release 2 videos, but for the most part it's 1 video. And so it may seem like I'm always traveling somewhere, but it's usually just because like if I go somewhere for a week, I may have like 14 videos or something out of that week, and so it takes a long time to kind of edit and release those, and so that's why it may seem like I travel all the time. But definitely I think what has helped for me to be able to travel so frequently is, like I had mentioned in the previous question, I had a ton of frequent flyer miles and hotel points that I was able to use. So I was able to redeem those for round trip tickets and free hotel nights. But then outside of that, I also look for really good deals. So I'm checking all of the major sites just to always see if there's any kind of really good special going on where I'm able to snag a quick trip for something for a weekend, or, you know, planning the larger vacations a few times a year. But then the other thing too is I live super close to New York City, and so it's only about 45 minutes into the city. So I'm able to go on weekends and film videos there. So it may look like I'm traveling, but I'm just a short trip from home So that's how I'm able to do it. And it definitely doesn't hurt that I'm single. And so, I kind of just operate on my own schedule. And so I'm able to go where I want to go and do what I want to do. And so that's just the short end of it. All right. Well, the next thing we're going to do is we're going to do the last savory item and then one last sweet item, and then we'll wrap it up. But this is the cheese Hamburg steak sushi. You can see there's a small piece of cheese on top of the Hamburg. And it looks like there's a specific way you're supposed to open this one. Well, it just has an arrow here. All right. Hamburg cheese sushi going in. This one isn't for me. It might be because it's cold. It's served in the refrigerated section. And whenever I've had Hamburg steak, it's served hot. So I think that might be the first thing. The other thing is like the cheese and the sauce aren't working very well together for me. The rice is good. The rice is tasty. I'm glad I tried it, but I think I would probably pass on this because there's so many other things that are so much more delicious that are worth trying. So yeah, I'd pass on this one. So all right, so the last question today that I'm going to answer is, what are some of my interests outside of YouTube and eating? And I would have to say that I think I've always had a love and a passion for the arts. So specifically movies. I love the cinema. I love the cinema so much. I try to go as often as I can. I actually have that AMC Stubs membership. I think it's called the A-List membership, where you're able to see 3 movies a week included into that membership. I don't have the time to go 3 times a week, so it's usually a couple times a month. But I do try to see all of the big releases, and then usually over the weekends I'll stream something off of one of the streaming sites. But I love the movies. I think it's always such an awesome experience to just sit back and relax and kind of get taken away somewhere. My favorite genres would have to be sci-fi, comedy, action adventure. I know I'm a dude, but I do like historical dramas as well. I think, but yeah, I just love movies. I've actually been super lucky, and I've gone to the Sundance Film Festival with some friends a couple of times, and I think we're going to be going again next month. Not sure when this video will drop, so it actually may be after it has already happened. If I am able to go, I'll see if I'm able to swing a couple of reviews there. But yeah, movies are a big part of my DNA. I love it. I really, really do. And then I'm a big fan of music. I have a pretty eclectic music taste. I like pretty much every genre. The ones I listen to quite frequently is EDM. Like Cascade is like my favorite artist of all time. He is such a legend. And then I love classic rock and rock. I love hip hop, mostly the classic hip hop from like the 90s and the 80s. But there's some really good new stuff as well. But yeah, I love music and movies. Those are like big, outside of traveling, those are my 2 main passions, my 2 main hobbies. So, all right. Well, then let's go ahead and move to the finale, the grand finale, the pumpkin pudding. And I think I remember another YouTuber, it might have been Paul from Critical Eats Japan. Shout out to him. He's a legend. We were able to go do a collaboration at the Ramen Museum in Yokohama with him and Aaron. And so check that out. If it's out already, I'll put a link up here. But from what I've heard, usually pumpkin flavored things, like in the US and probably in Canada, whenever it's like pumpkin flavored something, it's usually like a pumpkin spice flavored thing. But I guess in Japan, it's usually like the actual pumpkin is the flavoring here. So it looks really pretty. This is like a really pretty dessert. So let's try it out. Yep. It tastes like actual pumpkin. Wow. Oh, and then there's like some, I don't know if it's like a caramel sauce at the bottom. Yeah. That's really good. If you don't like the actual taste of pumpkin, you probably will not like this. In fact, I know you won't. But It's really smooth. I thought this was going to be like an icing or a frosting or something, but it's just the pudding. And then you have some whipped cream on there that adds a nice sweetness to it. But this just, it has such a nice smooth texture, and it's not overly sweet. It's just really refreshing. It's really nice. Well, all right, folks, that's going to bring us to the end of this video. If you happen to miss part 1 or part 2 of the series, there will be links in the description below where you can find those. But I think my favorite, I don't know, it's too hard to choose a favorite convenience store because they each have, I mean, they have a lot of similar stuff, but they each have their own unique items that makes it worth going to all 3 of them. So when you're here, I definitely recommend trying all 3 of them. In fact, it's good to be able to go on multiple days because there's so many things that you're going to want to try that your stomach is just not going to have the room to consume all of them in one go. So this has been an excellent opportunity and experience for me. So what I'm thinking, as I mentioned earlier in the video, there's going to be one more Konbini video where I'm going to compare the egg salad sandwiches between all 3 of the major convenience stores, as well as the tuna mayo onigiri. So stand by for that. That will be coming soon. So before we wrap up this video, I'm curious how many of you out there have been to Japan and gone to these convenience stores. Do you have a favorite? If you haven't been to Japan yet, which one do you think would be the most interesting? Let me know in the comment box down below. If you enjoyed yourself, I definitely appreciate it if you would be able to leave a like. It helps this channel grow. Also, make sure you're subscribed and hit the bell notification so as soon as new videos pop up, you're going to be the first to know about it. Thank you so much for sticking around to the end, and until next time, stay curious.